It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
If children are having fun, they're going to be energised, they're going to experience school as a creative opportunity. School will just go so much better if kids are having fun.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
I love what technology can do. Hello, this is Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm kind of here with my wife and podcast partner, Kylie. This is Happy Families, except I'm not really here. Kylie, I am in Auckland, about to fly to Christchurch so that I can help a whole lot of families be happy. You're in our studio back at home on the Sunshine Coast of Queensland, and technology means we can keep the podcast going even though I'm not with you.
Well, you know the best thing about the fact that you're not here right now?
No. What, you've got the whole bed to yourself?
No, but I may have a box of Haig's chocolate right next to me.
Haig's still have not sponsored us, but we're going to keep on talking about it because after my last shopping trip there, I did stock up, didn't I? You're going to have... Anyway.
I found the stash.
Well, let me just highlight that it is freezing. It is freezing cold in New Zealand. I'm so glad we live in Queensland. Last night, I was at the Diocesan School for Girls in Auckland, and we had hundreds, literally like 400 or 500 parents in attendance as we talked about misconnection. And today, I'm about to jump on a flight and head to Christchurch. I'll be speaking at St Margaret's at Christchurch.
Well, my suggestion is if you think it was cold last night...
The forecast for Christchurch is horrible. Top temp today, 7 degrees. What is that? By the way, it's 6 degrees there right now. Right? So I'm not looking forward to this at all. Now, just before we talk about our topic today, choosing a school for your child, I should mention I do travel and give talks in schools all over the place about how families can be happier and how kids can be resilient and overcome their anxiety and their challenge and all that sort of stuff. And I even do a whole lot of professional development work with staff in schools as well. So if you're a school teacher or if you're a parent who would love to have me at your school, please make sure that you get in touch because I'd love to come to you. Adelaide, Perth, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, New Zealand.
Tokyo!
I'll go anywhere. So if you've got a budget and if you'd love to have me show up, I would love to be there. We need to do this though so that I can get to the airport on time to catch my aeroplane. So Kylie, how do you choose a school for your child? We've had a parent reach out to us and say, I'm really stuck. I don't know what I'm supposed to do about choosing a school for my child. It's really tricky and there are so many schools out there and everyone has an opinion. There are so many things that we could say. Let's do this efficiently to help people, time-poor parents, get answers now.
So I was talking to a friend the other day and she is going through this exact dilemma right now. Her child has already been to a school and they had to leave because things weren't working out well there.
Primary school, high school, what are we
Primary.
up to? Okay.
She has additional needs, significant additional needs. She's now in another school.
Well, so her second or her third?
Second.
Right.
So second school, we're into term 3.
Yep.
And looking through all the glossy magazines and information that you would read about a school, the philosophy was just right up there with what she was looking for. But what she has recognised after 2 terms is the deliverables don't even come close to what she was promised.
Okay, so this is one of those issues where schools put all the stuff in the pamphlet on the website and say, here's how good we are, and then you show up and you don't have your experience doesn't match the expectation that's set.
Exactly. But the big challenge for her is if it was just academics, it would be a really easy, we need to find another school. This is not working.
Yep.
For the first time, her daughter is 8. For the very first time in her schooling journey, she has a friend.
Oh.
It's the first time that she's really connected with another girl.
Oh.
And she's like, if I take her out of this setting, then
she loses the one friend she's ever had.
One friend.
Right. So the school's not working, but she's got one friend, and now what do I do?
Yeah. And so it's, do I choose the friend over the education?
Oh, wow.
Because my child needs friends.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important for their well-being. So, I mean, we've been through this.
Too many times.
Since we've moved to the coast, we've only been here for 2 terms ourselves, but we said to the kids pretty much, this is the school you're going to go to. It's your call whether you want to leave it or not, but we are never going to ask you to go to another school. Because for the 5 years that we were in Brisbane, our children went to 4 different schools. We just couldn't find a school where they felt right, where they felt good. And each time we moved, one child would tend to go to a different school than all the rest of them as they tried to find their niche. And it is so hard. And that's because of one key thing.
The reality is you have to buy before you try. You know, you read the glossy magazines, you attend, you kind of go to an open day.
Or sometimes you don't. Sometimes you just send them to the school down the road because that's all you can afford. But you're still buying before you're trying. That's where they go.
And you really have no idea. You have no idea if this is going to work.
And it's so strange because the things that we rely on most when it comes to choosing a school are what I call the 3 R's, and they're not writing, reading, and arithmetic. They are, instead, reputation, results, and resources. So you look at the school, especially if you're in the privileged position where you can pay for a private school, you look at the school, but even then, if you're going to go to a public school, you look at the schools that are in the area or in the catchment that you're in, and you hope that they've got a good reputation and that the results that they're getting for their students are excellent. And you really, really want them to have fantastic resources. And so you pick the school that looks the best.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I think about the times that we've done the moves that we've done, and often it's been in the school holidays. So the school hasn't even been open. But I've had to go on the fact that it just feels nice being there.
Or you have a conversation with an admin staff member or the person who gives you the school tour and you say, oh, they were just so nice and it felt good. But ultimately, what works for one child doesn't work for another one.
No, and I think that's my other kind of take home from all of our experiences. There is no one size fits all. You have 5 children, you have 3 children, you have 2 children. Just because it works for one doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a great fit for the other one.
And just because your neighbour loves the school down the road and their kids have all gone there and they've all thrived and had a great time.
And they've never had an issue.
Yep, doesn't mean that your kids are going to go there and have the same experience. It's just so challenging.
One of the schools that our kids went to, literally, we had hands down the best experience for one of our children that we've ever experienced. And the other 2 or 3 had a similar experience, wasn't as great, but very good.
Yep.
And then one child was just
it was the worst.
Miserable. It was the worst move for her. And the school actually acknowledged, they just said this cohort of kids, this age group and this specific mix of kids is just not working. It's a hard year. And that will happen from time to time, even if a school is great.
So after the break, we're going to talk about how we can make some progress towards making some useful decisions when it comes to choosing the right school for your child. If you've got a teen, you're likely already worried about alcohol and drug use. As a parent, you want to know, how do we protect them? How do we teach them? How do we know if they're up to something? Pot, Pills and Parenting will equip and empower you to help your tweens and teens navigate one of the most challenging adolescent issues today. Available on the Happy Families webshop.
It's the Happy Families podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. And this is a tough one.
Can I just say how grateful I am for central heating? I'm so glad that air conditioning works because it's cold in New Zealand right now. I'm just saying. So, Kylie, I mentioned before my 3 R's. I know that you push back against them a little bit, but the idea of reputation, results, and resources are pretty salient for a lot of parents when they're choosing a school. That's why we look at the websites. That's why we look at the glossy materials. That's why we have school tours. We're looking at what the resources are. We listen to what people's thoughts are on the school, what their experiences are. That forms the reputation. And we hope that they're getting good results for the kids because we don't want to send our kids to a school where the results are lousy. But I've got a couple of other ideas that I think can be more helpful for some parents some of the time, and they all start with F. Well, actually, no, they don't all start with F, but they start with the f sound. Yeah, fun, friends, and philosophy. So when it comes to school, more than anything, the kids need to have good relationships. If they've got lousy relationships, they're not going to want to go to school. We've actually had some insight in the last week or so as we've been dealing with the ongoing challenge of our youngest daughter's school refusal, and it's occurred to us she doesn't actually have friends. She literally, when we said to her, who would you like to have over on the weekend? Let's build some friendships. And she was like, I don't have any friends. I don't know who I can invite over. She's only 8. And we're going, oh man, this is tricky. We need to help this kid to get some friends. And when kids have friends, they look forward to being at school because they're going to spend the day in the company of people that they love being around. Friends is critically important. Makes it really hard when you've just moved to a new area. Makes it really hard when you've got a child who is struggling in a school, but they don't have any friends at any of the other schools anywhere else either. But friends, the quality of the relationships that they share with the people around them, going to be a central predictor in whether or not your child will enjoy being at school and be happy to be there.
How does fun play into it?
Well, if children are having fun, they're going to be energized. They're going to experience school as a creative opportunity. School will just go so much better if kids are having fun. So we need friends. We need fun. They go hand in hand quite often as well. And the third one is philosophy. and this is a tricky one because schools will have their mission statements or they'll have their values or whatever it is wallpapered all over their website and all over the walls when you show up at the school. But as you shared your friend's situation, sometimes the school doesn't live what it preaches, what it says. It doesn't live its values. We had the same experience with one school in Brisbane, that school experience that we had for 9 months at one of those independent kind of schools down in the Carbrook, Cornubra area, but I won't mention the school. It was horrendous. It was the worst experience and they just didn't live their values. Sorry, did I sound like I was a little bit jaded then? I shouldn't have done that. So fun, friends and philosophy are critically important, but I think that we need to be looking for other things to help our children to get through their schooling as well. And the 3 things that I want to add are, first off, our kids need stability. We watched this happen as we moved our children from one school to the next, to the next, to the next in Brisbane. It really affected them, didn't it? Like, people say, oh, kids are resilient, they'll be right. But sometimes they're not. It was a really hard experience.
Yeah, I really hate that line, that kids are resilient. It's like, how much do we put our kids through to test whether or not they are or not? Like, if you don't need to, why would you? Well,
life will already throw enough volatility and randomness at you. I mean, and you don't find out how resilient you are until you have to go through hard things, but we don't need to put developmentally inappropriate challenges on top of them when they're already dealing with so much. The second thing, other than stability, I mean, encouraging stability is huge, but then you're balancing the fact that your child's not thriving with the fact that you want them to be stable. But if they're not thriving where they are, you kind of go through this horrible thing where you're trying to juggle. I've mentioned this already, but I'm going to highlight it again. The quality of the relationships that your kids have has to be central. If they're not making friends, if they don't have anyone that they can rely on, I think that we've got to at least consider moving them. But before we do that, we've got to also ask ourselves, and maybe ask the teachers, is there anything going on with my child? Does my child lack anything socially? Is my child getting stuff wrong? Because if there's something inherent in the child and they have to mature some more, they've got to figure out relationships a bit better, no matter where you put them, they'll continue the same habits and patterns unless they find a very, very compassionate, very kind friendship group at their new school. The same challenges they're having at school X will follow them to school Y. Not because of social media and not because of the inherent horribleness of kids, but rather because our child just hasn't grown up enough. But relationships are critical. I think the last thing, though, is trust. Trust means that you believe that the people around you are going to act in your best interests. And most of the time, if your child's struggling at school, they're going to have trust issues. They're not going to believe that the teacher or their peers or whoever, even we as us parents, are acting in their best interests. So we need to help them to find an environment where they feel like we're there to act and the people around them are there to act in their best interests.
It's interesting. We've obviously done a lot of moves over the years, and some of those have been significant moves. And so as a result, our children have had to change schools because of those moves. I wonder what would have happened had we have just stayed in one place, whether or not, you know, they would have gone through their schooling journey at the same school with the same friends.
Yeah, would the stability have actually... would it have all evened out in the end?
And I think that's where I'm kind of going with it. I think that, like that school acknowledged for us that one time where there was just a crazy cohort, a mix of kids that didn't work particularly well. Our kids are going to go through seasons where things aren't great. But as long as it's not the norm, as long as it's not the everyday.
Yeah, so as long as the environment isn't consistently toxic, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Then the reality is it's just the ebbs and flows of life in general. And if we can help our kids work through that, they'll actually be okay.
Something else just popped into my mind as you were saying that. School is an invention. Like we've created in the last couple of 100 years. Schools have been around for a few thousand years in one form or another, but universal schooling for all children, this concept of schooling is it's a modern invention, and it's not surprising that the system doesn't work for everyone. It's not surprising that we've got different philosophies and different ways of doing things. And when I look at all of our chops and changes, I wish that our kids would have had the stability that I think is so important. But I also think that changing their schools has ultimately given them every chance at success. If we'd left them where they were wallowing in the mires of mediocrity, where they were struggling with friends, where they were coming home crying, where they were saying, I don't want to go to school, things wouldn't have been any better. I think changing has been the right thing to do in our case. But I don't think there's an easy answer.
No, I don't think so either. I think on our end, having had conversations with the kids at different stages, for me, they feel like they were heard. When things were tough and they were struggling, they felt that they were heard, they were seen, heard and valued particularly, and that they had some say. They actually had some say in what their future looked like.
Bingo. I love that. We hope that those who are struggling with the question of choosing a school for their child, whether it's the first school or the fifth school, found some help in what we shared. I need to pack up, go out into the cold and catch a plane to Christchurch, honey. I'll see you in a day and a half when I get back from NZ and fly back across the ditch. Kia ora.
I might save you a chocolate.
The Happy Families podcast, did I do that wrong, is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. I feel so sheepish now. See what I did there? I'm in New Zealand. Sheepish. If you'd like more information about making your family happier, please join us on our Facebook page at Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families or visit happyfamilies.com.au.